Eye Contact, a Mark Manning Mystery, Book 2. Author, Michael Kraft. Publisher, Open Road Integrated Media, New York. Narrator, Eric Aust. Lucille Herring's stomach growls. It's past 12:30, and she didn't bother with breakfast this morning. Arriving early at her desk in the top floor offices of the Journal, she resumed her hacking. Digging into Nathan Kane's files, consumed by her growing suspicion that the publisher has been hiding something monumentally evil. It began as a groundless hunch. The man's arrogant manner and pampered lifestyle have long inspired wild, far-fetched gossip, but her subjective hunch turned to hard, objective suspicion as she worked with him on a daily basis. Her purpose at the Journal from the beginning was to assist Kane's office in its efforts with the Pentagon to establish a next-generation communications network. Her expertise in computers, however, was put to use solely in tutoring Kane, who pleaded utter ignorance of anything more advanced than a typewriter. And then every day he proved that he knew far more than he claimed. His questions, his demands, the speed with which he assimilated even the most arcane theories of applied electronics, all of this convinced Lucille Herring that Kane has lied and that he's up to something. Whatever it is she has deduced is going to happen soon, so she's become a hacker. She hates that word. It stands for everything she's worked against during the course of her career. What she's doing is illegal, and she knows that she will throw away her life's work, to say nothing of her freedom and her security clearance, if she's unable to confirm her suspicion of Kane's treachery. But that's a risk she must take. It's simply the right thing, the moral thing to do. She started to make some headway last night, plumbing deeper through the security levels of Kane's directories. By that late hour, though, she was exhausted and no longer trusted her judgment. So she went home, slept, and returned early today. Saturday, knowing the executive offices would be vacated, she asked the guard by the elevator, "Has the colonel come in this morning?" "No, ma'am," he replied. "He's left town for the weekend." "Of course," she mumbled. She hadn't forgotten Kane's plan. She just wasn't sure if she believed them. Back at her desk, clacking away at the keyboard, she quickly retraced her way to Kane's most sensitive directories. Having already discovered the path, the morning has been spent sifting through file after file, mounds of data, corporate financials, nothing that would suggest a hint of impropriety. She's been getting frustrated, and now she's getting hungry. She sits back in her chair, stares at the screen, pushes her fingertips through her cropped red hair. Too many details, too much monotony. Let's start over. Let's close down these files, get out of these directories, go back to File Manager, and look at the big picture. One by one, she scrolls through Kane's directories, studying the list on her screen, hoping something may pop out at her. But there is nothing abnormal, just slugs, newspaper parlance for file names, their links and the date and time they will last open. Then she finds a path to a subdirectory she had not previously noticed. Editorial. She figures it's worth a check. It's a huge directory containing every story currently in the Journal's editorial pipeline. However, only the ones that Kane has tapped into have a date and time notation, and there aren't many of them. While she glances through this much shorter list, one of the stories grabs her attention. The file is slugged Hijinks, and it was opened by Kane last night at 8 o'clock. That can't be right, she tells herself. She was here all evening. Kane left around 5 and never returned. She calls up the file. Manning's byline story appears on her screen, exactly as it appeared on page 5 of this morning's paper. She had rushed through the Journal before leaving the house this morning, but Manning's story caught her eye because of its headline about stunning developments, and intrigued. She read it, disappointed that the story never delivered on the headline, almost as if it were a mistake, the product of sloppy editing. She wonders if the story has been edited. Its previous version is still lurking somewhere in an electronic limbo. Most people wouldn't have a clue as to how to undo a file's revisions, but it's child play to Lucille Herring. After a few keystrokes, her screen blinks, then an earlier story appears. Same headline, same opening. What? She can't believe what she's reading. The scheme turned murderous when Kane shot and killed 2 of his own reporters, Clifford Nolan and David Bosch. With mouth agape, Lucille Herring reads through the rest of the story. learning the details of David's death as he investigated the laser projector at Mid-America Building. Mesmerized, she reads that Kane was also responsible for promoting the hoax of Planet Zarnick. Manning's article concludes, many questions still surround this tragic charade, but recent developments have propelled this story beyond the realm of mere journalism. As mastermind of a baffling but deadly subterfuge, Nathan Kane has betrayed the journal and the public. He now must answer to society and to the law. Just as Lucille Herring reads the last line, she hears voices down the hall. Out by the elevator, she hears a key in the door as the guard swings it open, saying, "Sorry about your trip, Colonel. Let me know if you need anything." Christ, does he know I'm here? Wonders Lucille Herring. There wasn't much conversation with the guard. She decides that Kane doesn't know she's in the office. She wants to keep it that way. She'll hide. She gets up from her chair, swiftly steps to the backside of her desk, and crouches on the floor. While listening to the approach of his footsteps through the outer office, she realizes that Manning's story, his original story, is still brightly displayed on her screen. If Kane sees it, she assumes he will not hesitate to kill again. She pops up for a moment, taps a few keystrokes that blacken the screen, then hunkers down again, behind the desk. Holding her breath, she watches Kane's legs scissor past. He carries the same briefcase he had yesterday. She hears him stop at his door, fishing for the key. Her stomach growls. A long, rubbery rumble. Kane silences his keys, listening. Her heart pounds in her ears. She's not sure, but she thinks she's peed her pants. And then she hears Kane slip his key into the lock. The door opens. He steps into the inner sanctum and thuds the door behind him, locking it again. She breathes, gasping for air. She feels her crotch, sniffs at her fingers. No, thank God. And then she sits at her desk again, stretching her fingers like a concert pianist preparing to tackle Schoenberg. Calling up a new directory, she smirks, thinking aloud, "Now then, Colonel, let's see what else you've been up to." Neil unlocks the front door to the loft and pokes his head inside, expecting to hear the warning alarm of the security system, but it is silent. "Anybody here?" he calls, hearing no response. He turns behind him to say, "Come on in, ladies." Then he ushers Roxanne Exner and Clara Gray into the loft. The space seems eerily quiet. Not only has the alarm not been set, but there is no sound from the refrigerator, from the air conditioning, from any of the sources of house noise that contribute to the usual background murmur. It's as if the electricity has been shut off. But Neil notices the microwave clock running. The light on the answering machine. He steps to the kitchen center island and plops a pile of mail on the counter. Yesterday's and today's, collected from the lobby. Manning has not been home since Friday morning, after Neil wrote his note and walked out. That's why the place seems so quiet, he realizes. Mark is gone. It was one thing for Neil himself, the wronged lover, loftmate, that is, to walk out in a display of pike, but it's another matter entirely for Mark to abandon the place. Did their home together mean that little to him? Or can he face the empty space either way? Where did he spend the night? Has Neil sent him scampering back to David? That would be a monumental backfire. Perhaps Neil should have listened more and reacted less. He makes a mental note that he still needs to replace that broken glass. While mulling all this, he sorts through the mail, making 4 stacks. 2 bulky piles of junk mail, his and Manning's, and 2 smaller stacks of first class, one for each of them. "What's wrong?" asks Roxanne, studying Neil's scowl as he stands there in the kitchen, lost in thought. Neil snaps out of it. "Sorry, it's just that I expected the security alarm to be set, and it wasn't. Also, I get the feeling that Mark didn't sleep here last night." "You mentioned that he left a message at Roxanne's. What was it?" Claire asked. Neil strolls toward the big east window. He sounded really strange, but maybe he just felt awkward leaving the message, knowing I didn't want to talk to him. He said that something big had developed on his story, that he wouldn't be able to make it to the stadium today, and that he was glad I was staying with Roxanne for a while. I could tell by his tone that he wasn't being snide. The implication, which makes no sense at all, was a concern for my safety, as if there might be some danger lurking here. He glances around the loft and shrugs his shoulder. "Everything seems okay, though." "Of course everything's okay," Roxanne assures him with a hug. You need to work this out with Mark. Concentrate on what's been right between you, and for God's sake, dismiss any notions of boogeymen under the bed. She pecks his cheek, reminding him, "You're not the paranoid type, Neil." Claire snorts. "I wish I could say as much about Hector. He's still in his snit over all this, and yes, he is most definitely paranoid. I was with him at the hotel yesterday morning when David dropped over to have his talk. Hector turned irrational and put his own spin on everything. David told him, and then he stormed off to the Journal to confront Mark, and I understand he put on quite a performance. Hector and I argued about it into the afternoon, only to be interrupted by David on the phone. David was calm, and he tried to get Hector calmed down, insisting that we all meet again later. And of course, Hector's suspicions were fed all the further when David, offering no explanation, never showed up last night. It sent Hector right off the edge. David didn't show up. That's news to Neil, firing a suspicion of his own. Claire continues. The bottom line is that I didn't stand a chance of getting Hector to the festival today. The last thing he's in the mood for right now is the gay rights agenda. He'd rather sulk in his room. She laughs, but it's bitter. I told him he should join the march at the Christian Hotel. To my amazement, he said he had a mind to. Anyway, she steps to Neil and Roxanne, grasping their hands. Thanks for letting me tag along today. Sorry to be the third wheel. Roxanne pats her hand. Oh, we're all in the same boat today. Just 3 singles looking for fun. That's ironic. Carl has been trying to wheedle out of this for weeks. He truly doesn't like crowds, not even football games. But I finally had him convinced that this will be the event of the decade, something he'd hate to miss. Then what happens? Nathan Kane phones him at home this morning, Saturday, with another corporate crisis that no one else seems capable of handling. So at this very moment, Carl is strapped into a puddle jumper, winging his way over Lake Michigan to Grand Rapids. He'll be back tomorrow morning, but he'll have missed the big spectacle. Well, says Neil. Buck up, sob sisters. We'll make the best of this outing in spite of our missing menfolk. I just need to change clothes, so you gals make yourselves comfortable, and then let's discuss lunch. We've got plenty of time before the stadium gates open. He heads toward the stairs that lead up to the balcony. There's not much to discuss, Roxanne calls after him. I've got a table booked at Zaza's in 15 minutes. So shake it. Neil bounds up the stairs, leaving the ladies to settle themselves on the sofa, while gabbing an appreciative commentary on the view of the lake. It is indeed a perfect day for the open-air festivities that will launch Celebration 2000. Neil's need to change clothes is the purpose of this midday visit to the loft. When he wrote the note to Manning and left early yesterday morning, he took a few basic toiletries, but no extra clothes. He was so angry he couldn't think straight, and he had no idea how long he'd be away, but his principal reason for not packing was that he didn't want to wake Manning and explain what he was doing. He just wanted out. If tensions didn't ease, he might have to buy clothes as he needed them. He really couldn't predict how the near future would shape up between Manning and him. Fortunately, their day apart has lent an uneasy calm to the whole situation. This morning, Neil decided he'd risk a run to the loft to get a few things. Manning probably wouldn't be there, but just in case he was, Neil brought the ladies along so that he wouldn't be stuck alone with them. Manning would surely want to talk things out then and there. He'd want to reconcile, but Neil isn't ready yet. One step at a time. For now, he'll be happy enough to get into some fresh clothes. He reminds himself that even though it's the middle of summer, they'll be at the stadium till after dark, and the night could turn chilly. Planning his outfit, he decides he should carry a sweater. These thoughts end abruptly, though, as he walks into their dressing room and gasps. The place is a shambles, with clothes thrown everywhere, drawers emptied. Then he hears a scream. It's Claire. What's wrong? Yells Neil, rushing to the edge of the balcony, looking down at the sofa. Both women are convulsing with laughter. Sorry, Neil, Claire calls up to him, but your friend just told me the most deliciously lewd story. Oh, Neil cautiously returns to the dressing room, grasping the door jamb as he looks within. What the hell? His first theory is that Manning did this, a declaration of war, but Neil quickly dismisses the notion, ashamed. For Manning's things have been trashed too. Did Manning's obscure message attempt to forewarn Neil of this? Neil can't be sure, but it doesn't seem that anything has been stolen. Downstairs, there are all kinds of expensive things that might have been taken but weren't even touched. So this wasn't a robbery, and the motive couldn't have been vandalism or there'd be damage throughout the loft. No, it appears as if someone was searching for something. Then Neil thinks of Cliff Nolan's dossiers. Of course, Carl Crichton asked about them Thursday night at dinner, and Manning told the table that he was keeping them at home. Now Carl has been called away, supposedly on urgent legal work in Grand Rapids, of all places. Was he that threatened by Nolan's files? Neil gingerly picks through a few things on the floor, assembling a fresh outfit as best he can, then changes clothes fast and traipses back downstairs, anxious to leave. All set? He asks, striding toward the sofa. He's decided not to mention what happened. There's no point in burdening the ladies with his own fretful thoughts. They rise. Raring to go, Roxanne tells him. Neil leads them without comment to the door, then, as he opens it, he turns back to ask, Rox, could you grab that last stack of envelopes, please? There in the kitchen, the smallest pile. I'll deal with it later. Mostly bills. Roxanne picks up the mail, drops it in her purse, and joins the others at the door. Neil takes a furtive look back into the loft, setting the alarm as they pass into the hall. Biting his lip, he makes a point of double-locking the door behind him. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.